and you will live. Now, as someone that already knows the law, someone that knows what he's supposed to do, the fact that you are asking someone that knows everything a question that you already know is kind of foolish. And so to justify himself, to give himself a better chance, a second chance, he asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" What an incredible question that not only messes with philosophers, ethicists, and even us today, it brings up a different conversation. And so, as such, in a Jesus-type way, I'm not going to answer that question right away. Jesus takes a story to do it. I'm going to take a few separate ways to go through it. Rather than answer the question right away, who is my neighbor, let's start with who is not my neighbor and use that as the benchmark and go up from there. Our first stopping point is going to be in the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 24 and verses 17 and following. It reads, "You shall not pervert the justice to the stranger, to the foreigner, to the sojourner, or to the fatherless, or to the abandoned, or take a widow's garments in pledge. But you shall remember that you were once a slave in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you from there. Therefore I command you to do this. And when you reap your harvest in your field and forget a sheaf in the field, you shall not go back to get it, for it shall be the strangers, the fatherless, the widows, and that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. And when you beat the olive trees, you shall not go over to get them again, for it shall be the strangers, the fatherless, and the widows. When you gather the grapes of your vineyard, you shall not strip it afterward, for that shall be the strangers, the fatherless, and the widows. And you shall not forget that you were once a slave in Egypt. For this I command you to do." So at the very least, for someone that we do not know, for someone that we have never met and maybe never will meet again, we are to treat them with respect. We are to give them the things that they need, give utter benevolence and care for them. It doesn't matter where they come from, what they think, what they do, and how they act. It is up to us to give them the love and respect that they as human beings utterly deserve. And God is giving them the reminder that they once had nothing. They were once foreigners in a strange land. And that just because they don't have a home doesn't mean that you can't give them one in your heart. And so that is the very least that we can do for others. And that's not even to the neighbor. Now let's take it a step further to those that we wish were not our neighbor, our enemies, our nemesis, those people that are mean to us in the checkout line at Target, whatever it is, the people that we don't want to be nice to, the people that don't like me, the people that don't like you. How are we supposed to treat them? Well, luckily for us, Jesus tells us exactly how we're supposed to do it. He tells us a few chapters before Luke chapter 10 and Luke chapter 6. In his Sermon on the Plain, starting in verse 27, he reads, "But I say to you who hear this, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. To the one who strikes you on the cheek, offer him the other. And from one who takes away your shirt, offer him your coat as well. Give to everyone who begs from you, and the one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back. And as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. If you love those who love you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what benefit is that to you? Even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those who you expect to receive back, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners and get back the same amount. But if you love your enemies and do good and lend everything, expecting nothing in return, your reward will be great. You will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind and to the ungrateful and to the evil. Be merciful, even as your Father is merciful. So we see another benchmark. For our enemies, we are to treat them the same way, with love and respect. We can't just be good to those that are good to us, because that is the easiest thing that we can do. No, to be benevolent is to absolutely give ourselves to the need at hand. It doesn't matter if they are good to us. It doesn't matter if they are trying to kill us. The important matter at hand is to offer a loving hand. So let's ask this profound question. Why? Why take these words when these people are not even God's friend? These are the same people that Jesus is telling us to love that are going to crucify him a few weeks from now. Because that's godly. That is to be God-like. To be Christ-like is to forgive someone while they are in the process of killing you. He says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Their actions have nothing to do with how we should receive them. We need to do our part in terms of forgiving and in terms of giving. It doesn't matter what their plans are, what they're hiding and everything else. If there is a need, it is not our duty to question it. It is our duty to help it. And so, now it comes to our neighbor. We are in Luke chapter 10 right now. Who is my neighbor? Starting in verse 32, so likewise, So starting in verse 29, who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. He fell among robbers, who stripped him and beat him and departed him, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down the road, and he saw him pass, and he passed by on the other side. Likewise a Levite, when he came to the place, he saw him and he passed by on the other side. Stopping here, we have two prominent people in the Jewish religion. We have a priest, someone that is about to take their turn in the temple. And it's custom that they're not to be unclean. Had this man have been unclean for being dead, he wouldn't have been able to take his turn in the temple. And so we can give him a pass. We can say, okay, he was trying to do the devout thing. And then we look at the Levite, just a devout person who could be a priest one day in general. He passes by too. And so the heroes, the priests and the Levites, those that the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the scribes, and this lawyer talking to Jesus would have empathized with. But Jesus gives a third option. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was. When he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him, he bound his wounds, pouring oil and wine over them. Then he set him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 days' pay and gave him to the innkeeper, saying, take care of him. Whatever more you spend, I will repay you when I come back. Which of these three do you think proved to be the neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? And so now we have a Samaritan. And Samaritans were not liked by the people at that time. They were dirty, they were unclean, they were idolaters, they were everything that you wouldn't want in a person. And so the fact that this was the example hurts. And it shows in the very next verse, because the lawyer said the one who showed him mercy. It was dirty and unclean to even speak the word Samaritan. And the next is even worse when Jesus says, go and do likewise. The fact of the matter is, Jesus doesn't answer this question. He leaves it very open-ended. Rather than just telling us outright who is our neighbor, so that way we can be good to them, it is up to us to be the neighbor. The answer is not who is my neighbor, but the answer is be neighborly. Because being a neighbor isn't a noun. It's not a person that I can point at. It's an action. It is a complete selflessness towards the well-being of others, no matter their race, their religion, their gender, or anything else that might come up in conversation. The Samaritans worshipped a pagan mixed religion, mixed races from Canaanites and Israelites. To say that the idol worshiper is better neighbor than the priest or the Levite was blasphemous, except it wasn't. It's life-changing. And so let's change the narrative a little bit, shall we? Let's change the Levite and the priest scenario. What if they asked the man? What if they asked him, are you a Jew? Because if you are, then I'll help you. Is our goodwill with conditions goodwill at all? If we only help those that we want to help, is that good at all? No, we need to help those that we don't know, those that we may never see the benefits of helping, those that want wrongdoing to come to us, those that may want everything bad in the world to happen to us. But that's not the case. It is up to us to be the neighbors. We are to be neighborly, and we are to act in the example of the Samaritan. And it's also important not to place stereotypes in terms of who we help, because this passage in particular is often mentioned and recognized and has the header in your Bibles as the Good Samaritan. The word good is nowhere near this passage, and to imply a good Samaritan means that the entirety of Samaria is nothing but bad people, save for this one. Connotations are a very dangerous thing, and it is important that we do not label people other than being those in the image of God. All of this to say, and all of this to ask, who our neighbor is. And that's kind of the point. If we ask all of this, the same way that we ask if we only forgive 490 times, we miss the point of Jesus' mission entirely. We need to do the right thing. It doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter how many times it is. That is just what a neighbor does. That is just what a Christian does. And we need to be soul winners for Christ. And if we can't do that for those around us, what good is it? And it doesn't take away from what he mentions previously when he says, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. If we are such in a rush to get to worship, or else we're going to miss our pew, or we're going to get fired, or we're going to be late, but we missed 3 car fires, a house fire, and a cat stuck in a tree, our sacrifice for worship is not worth much if we're not showing mercy to those that need it most. We get so caught up in the steps, we have to do our checklist. And it's time to take a step back and ask the question, who is my neighbor? Now I ask you, will you be mine? Could you be mine? You are dismissed.
Again, before we leave, can I do a prayer for Glennis Posey? She is in surgery this morning, and talked to family this morning and asked us to be praying about it. So is that okay? the school so much and our students, and I just ask you to be with all the doctors, nurses, anesthesiologists, therapists, anybody that's going to be involved in her care. Be with the family.